لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعن الله الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Respected brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, we've gathered here for this majlis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Inshallah, this is a sacred gathering, a gathering which is a source of pleasure to Allah and the representative of Allah on the earth, the Hujjah of Allah on the earth, the Imam of our time. In order to attract his special attention to this gathering, let us recite a beautiful united salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام. May Allah magnify and increase your reward for your mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When we come to these gatherings, we should be filled with shukr. Shukr for everything that our parents have done so that we have this type of opening in our heart and desire. Anybody who has done tarbiyah of us, anybody who has guided us, we should thank Allah for placing them in our way. And we should thank Him for honoring us by being present at the majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Our topic is the topic of Saʿādah. And we're searching for the path to attaining true happiness and true blessedness. We've talked about different approaches and perspectives that are given to us within our deen. The top concept of taklif, the concept of living a life of dignity and treating other people with dignity. The concept of huquq and sticking to observing the huquq of other people, especially other believers. And we spoke about those huquq, those rights which are general across all situations. And last night, alhamdulillah, we had the opportunity to cover 5 or 6 of these important huquq. Inshallah, a little bit later, we're going to complete that discussion on huquq. We're going to mention 3 others. But before that, I want to introduce one of the other tips and techniques and strategies for attaining Saʿādah. And this very important strategy is a strategy of being open and striving for change. Let me explain by first quoting a few narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam about the concept of change and transformation, and then inshallah we'll explain a little bit. The first one is from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. He says, Hayhat min nail as-sa'adati as-sukunu ila al-huwayna wal-batala. Meaning that it's very far from Saʿādah. If you're very distant away and far away from true blessedness and true success and true happiness, the person who is comfortable with being lax and being at ease and being idle and not having any meaningful struggle. Meaning that somebody who just wants to coast along. Imagine that, you're thrown into the lake. Okay, now there's some people who are trying to get to the edge, so they're moving, they're making progress. And there's some people who know how to tread water. Tread water is where you can just kind of stay in the same place and just be there. Okay? Now, one person is moving, the other person is just idle. When it comes to our struggles and our relationship with Allah and the struggle of the purification of the soul, people are similarly at these levels. There's some who are just coasting along, and then there's those who are taking meaningful steps and they're striving, they're trying to improve, they're gaining knowledge, they're trying to implement that knowledge, they're trying to identify their flaws, they're trying to address them, they're trying to gain virtues, they're trying to take steps to acquire success in this world and the hereafter. This is one of the pathways to Saʿādah. Another tradition, this is one that you've heard before, this is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, "Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghbun." You've heard this, a very famous hadith. The one whose 2 days are the same, that person is in a loss. And then that narration continues, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَرَ الزِّيَادَةَ فِي نَفْسِهِ فَهُوَ إِلَى النُّقْصَانِ. Somebody who, when they're looking at themselves, they don't see any type of gain. They don't see progress. Year by year, month by month, day by day. Either they're not aware of it, like they have no idea. If let's say we should ask ourselves, I want to challenge myself, inshallah you can ask yourself this question, that how have I improved my soul with the help of God from last year? Right? Do I have something I can point to and say that, yes, I've worked on this, or yes, I've gained this, or yes, this is the progress that I'm making. Now, let's ask this, what about from last month? How about from last week? How about yesterday? Right? For many of us, if we're honest, we're like, you know what, I can't really tell you. Maybe there's somebody who goes to the gym and they're used to, like, let's say working out, and maybe they can like lift weights, bench press, curl, whatever it is that is done. So they can say that, okay, well, last year I was, I don't know if you have a bench press here, but last year I was benching, let's say, 100 kilos, and now I'm doing 150 kilos. Okay, so I'm making progress in my journey to get physically strong. What do we have to say when it comes to our spiritual progress? And I'm not talking about some abstract terms. Inshallah, as every night we're going to get into some practical examples where we're going to be able to see this, inshallah. So that's hadith number 2. Hadith number 1 was about making sure that we're not just taking it easy, we're striving. Number 2, again, is about not making sure our 2 days are not equal. And the third one, man ajhada nafsahu fi islahiha sa'ida, wa man ahmala nafsahu fi ladhatiha shaqi. The one who strives and they struggle with themselves in order to reform and to create righteousness within themselves, that is the person who attains Saʿādah. That's the person who's truly going to be successful. And on the other hand, the person who lets themselves go and they're purely indulgent in the pleasures of their soul and the delights of their soul, that person is going to set themselves up for the opposite of Saʿādah, which is shaqa or shaqawa, which means wretchedness and misery. So these are ahadith, and there's others as well that tell us that one of the important qualities to be searching for in order to attain true happiness is struggle. Meaning that as a Muslim, as a mu'min who's striving to take the path of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I'm not always looking for the easy way out. I'm not afraid of challenges and difficulties. I'm not afraid of conflicts that may come up when it comes to my relationships with others, or difficulties that may be placed in my path where I need to show sabr and self-restraint. Because that is the path of Saʿādah, to be able to go and navigate these in the right way and to be able to attain Saʿādah in doing so. Now, let's look at a few examples. Tonight, every night we've been looking at different stories that are a source of inspiration for us, inshallah. Tonight I'm going to actually give you two stories because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to choose. So I said, let me just do both of them. Both of them are very beautiful and both of them are illustrative. There is a man by the name of Jarir ibn Marazim. Jarir was a companion of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and Jarir had a temper problem, an anger management problem. Or you could say he had trouble controlling his emotions. And I'm saying this because we want to find connection with the stories, and maybe sometimes we can find connection through these different things. So Jarir is about to go for performing the Umrah. Before doing that, he goes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says that I'm going to be going on this, inshallah, a life-transforming journey to the house of God. Can you give me some advice? So the Imam alayhi salam tells him, ittaqillah wa la ta'ajal. Okay, very simple, but very powerful. O Jarir, have taqwa of Allah, right? Be conscious of God, and do not be hasty. Okay, this hastiness, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that, do everything in a very slow and lazy way. No. What it means is that make sure that when you're making your decisions, you do so on the basis of thought and reason. Don't just respond emotionally. Have control over your emotions and have taqwa of Allah, meaning that do so knowing that you're in the presence of God. So then Jarir says, okay, I got that. Can you give me some more advice? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, ittaqillah wa la ta'ajal. Right? Have taqwa of Allah and do not be hasty. And again, he asked him for advice. It's the same thing again. Right? So now he understands that for him, this is what he needs to know. So then he says that I set out on my journey. And here I am, I'm going to perform the Umrah. And suddenly, there's somebody who comes along the way who's also going for Umrah. And this man happens to be from Sham. So because we're going to the same place, we're like, let's be traveling companions. Let's go together. So they start journeying together. And by the way, these type of things are not random, right? Allah sometimes will place somebody in our lives and sometimes will take away somebody from our lives. And there's a reason for that. There's a purpose behind it. It's a type of tarbiyah and opportunity for growth for all of us. So he says that when we got to a certain place, it was time for us to rest. We kind of rested, we took out our meals, and we started to share some food together, break bread. It's called, to break bread together. And, like traveling companions, we started to chat. So then that man, he started to open up about his different opinions, and he started to badmouth people. So he first says that, the people of Basra, they're like this. The people of Kufa, they're like that. In Basra and in Kufa, there are Shi'as of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So Jarir starts to realize that maybe this man who's coming from Sham, right, he's not very pro-Shia type of person. Okay? And then Jarir listens to the man. Now he starts to say that, do you know about Ja'far ibn Muhammad? Sallallahu alayhi, like the Imam. And he starts to badmouth the Imam himself. So Jarir says that I was about to get up and smash him in the nose. I just wanted to kill him. And he says, I was about to raise my hand. I was about to take this action. And suddenly, the words of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam came back to me. And ittaqillah wa la ta'ajal. And I realized that the Imam alayhi salam had taught me those words to condition me so that I wouldn't be so emotional. I wouldn't go and just act on my impulse and my immediate reaction. So I said, I held back. Now we don't know We don't know what happened with Jarir. Right? We don't, the rest of the story isn't told to us. But we can guess and we can maybe suspect, or let's say take husn al-dhan, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was already planning a way to guide the companion of Jarir. Because when somebody accompanies a follower of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, after all, the one whom they follow, right, it has an impression on the person they are in contact with. Their akhlaq has an impression on them. The purity of their heart, it leaves a trace on that person as well. And perhaps it's the case that by the end of this journey, this man had changed his opinion when it comes to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam because of the restraint of Jarir. Now, why do I give this story? Because when we're talking about the ability to change, right, to reform, and that being one of the ways of Saʿādah, Jarir is an example of that. Somebody who doesn't say that, like, this is the way I am. I'm just like this. Sometimes we hear people, they say, this is just the way I am, right? This is my character. Put up with it or leave it, right? And don't tell me to change. It's just the way I am. I say, wait a minute, right? Why do you see yourself as powerless to change when the change maker, the one who will allow you to change, is the one who has power over everything? Don't consider yourself so weak when you're connected to Allah. Yes, we're weak when we think of ourselves alone, but not when we're connected to Allah. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second story is similarly a story of change, and this is the story of somebody named Bakr had written a letter to our ninth Imam, Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. And he wrote to him, he says that I have a family member and my family member has a problem. What's the problem? He says that his father is a Nasibi. His father is somebody who has hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So in this letter, this follower of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, he says that I have two things. First of all, I want you to pray for me. Second of all, he says to Imam Jawad alayhi salam, tell me, what should my strategy be? He says, أَفَتَرَى أَنْ أُكَاشِفَهُ أَمْ أُدَارِيَهُ? Meaning that, do you think that I should, what's your advice? What's your instruction to me? Should I go head on with my father and just take off the gloves and let's say that, okay, well, you're somebody who has hatred of the Ahlul Bayt, and here I am, and I have love of the Ahlul Bayt, and if that's where you're going to be, I'm going to be firm in my stance, and we're just going to argue it out? Or should I do what's called mudarah? Mudarah means to take a gentle and a strategic approach, meaning that should I try to win him over? And this is very important. It comes up a lot. It comes up a lot when in family conflict, when it comes to friends, among believers, that we have two approaches. One of them is my way, highway approach, right? Okay, direct, conflict, right? No holds barred. Let me just tell you everything and share everything that's in my heart. The second one is to be strategic and to be gentle and to think long term. That's called the path of mudara. And of course, in hadith of our Prophet, we're told that al-mudaratu nisful iman, meaning that it's so important to take the path of mudara in our lives that it's half of iman. And it's really strange. Sometimes, we don't learn about it. We talk about being a mu'min. We say that mu'min is doing this, but we don't talk about mudara. So the Imam alayhi salam responds to him. And he tells him that, number one, don't think that I don't pray for you. Right? You're asking me to remember you in my du'as, right? Don't think that I don't pray for you. And this is very important for us to remember as well, that when somebody puts themselves in the line of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they recognize the Imam of the time. They try to strive in the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. At the very least, they should know the Imam is praying for them. Right? Number one. Number two, he says that you asked me about what you should do. He says that al-mudaratu khayrun laka min al-mukashafa. The path that you should take is the path of gentle, strategic relationship. Number one. Number two, so number one is I pray for you. Number two is that take the path of mudara. Number three is ma'al usri yusra, right? When you're going through all these difficulties, know that you're going to have a type of ease as well. And number 4, فَاصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Just be patient. You should know that final outcome will come in the benefit of those who have taqwa. And number 5, ثَبَّتَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَى وِلَايَةِ مَنْ تَوَلَّيْتَ. May Allah make you firm in this wilayah, right? That now that you're committed to the path of Ahlul Bayt, may Allah make you firm. And number 6, you should know that أنتم في وديعة الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه. Meaning that you should know that you are in the safekeeping of Allah, and Allah does not let His trusts alone. He doesn't abandon them. So he gives him this advice, and each one of these is so powerful. This is probably one of the most powerful traditions I've ever come across when it comes to practical guidance of how to live the life of a believer. And each one of these lines is so powerful. I feel that you could write a whole book on each one, and you could have a whole lecture series on just each one. But I'm just summarizing here. What the narration continues, and he says that he gave him the response to the letter that was written. Sometime later, right, the same man, Bakr, he writes to the Imam alayhi salam, he tells him that فَعَطَفَ اللَّهُ بِقَلْبِ أَبِيهِ. Allah changed and caused the heart of his father to change and to be filled with compassion. حَتَّى صَارَ لَا يُخَالِفُهُ فِي شَيْءٍ. Until it came to the point that whatever his son believed him, his father was 100% aligned with that. He started out as an enemy of Allah, but through this process, right, it wasn't just a snap of the fingers, there was a struggle there. But that struggle was something that was well worth it, because the father completely went 180 degrees from being one of the Nasibis to being somebody who had the wilayah and the love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in his heart. Please recite salawat. So brothers and sisters, to just sum up what we've said so far, okay, in a couple of sentences, that one of the pathways to Saʿādah is to be somebody who accepts change, who strives for change, who never says that this is where I am at, or that person's at and they're not going to change and I'm not going to change. We don't believe in that concept. We believe that the hearts are always capable of being changed. Nabi Musa alayhi salam, right? He was sent by Allah to Fir'aun. If Fir'aun has the possibility of changing, right, then so can anybody else. So we don't believe in this type of thing that, no, this is where, and in fact, we have to be somebody who is striving for that, for ourselves, for other people. We want to be changing and gaining progress. So when we're talking about the huquq, these shared huquq, what we're looking at is these are incredible opportunities for growth, for change and reform. Because sometimes we think that, okay, well, we say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum, right? If only I could be amongst your companions. That's great if we have that opportunity. But on a daily basis, we have an opportunity to be able to reform and do islah, and to be able to work on those qualities and those makarim al-akhlaq that is displayed by the likes of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So that's why when we talk about these things, they're very important and practical. So I'm going to give 3 more of those important practical huquq that must be observed. Number 1 for tonight is the importance of being able to accept the truth when it is presented to us. One of the rights that other believers have upon us is that when we are presented with the truth, we shouldn't deny it. We shouldn't try to skirt around it. We shouldn't try to move away from it. We should accept it. Okay, where does this come up? It's very frequent that at some point in our lives, we may do something, or we may have a certain stance on something, and we are shown that we were wrong. In this case, human nature is to do what? Human nature is to either cover up, or to make excuses, or to defend oneself, or instead of doing all of that, what sometimes people will do is when somebody points out something that's wrong, they'll go on attack mode and they'll try to say that, oh, well, you are wrong about this and you did this and you did that, right? Why are you telling me that I'm wrong about this thing right here? Okay? But this is actually a big mistake, right? One of the responsibilities that we have is to be people who, when the truth is presented to us, our hearts soften to it and we accept it immediately. We don't delay in doing that. A'zamul kibr. There's a narration from Imam Saʿādah alayhi salam. He says the greatest of arrogance is somebody who is not willing to accept the truth, who dismisses the truth and belittles the people of truth. They dismiss it. When the truth is presented to them, they just dismiss it. It's the most severe type of arrogance. And they also will make fun of or belittle the person of truth. Now sometimes, brothers and sisters, it comes up where somebody presents something to us and we realize that we're wrong. And at that moment, we're unable to admit it, right? For whatever reason. We're unable to say that, look, I'm sorry, I was wrong. At the very least, this is just a practical tip, at the very least, we can remain silent, right? Rather than trying to go and defend and try to, let's say, build, a building on sand, right? Imagine you construct a building on sand, right? The premises are wrong here. That's what sometimes we try to do. Just be quiet, right? And eventually, when the feelings subside, then we can go ahead and say to the person, look, I was wrong. I'm just sorry, right? Forgive me. These type of things can be very effective. On the other hand, when we're dealing with somebody, let's say that we're able to show somebody, with akhlaq, that their viewpoint was wrong, and we see that they're unable at that right then and there to apologize, we shouldn't be on their case and try to insist that they apologize right then and there, because there are some people who have real issues. They struggle with this. Already they have a deep sense of guilt inside of themselves, and at this point for them to say it would be even more difficult. Sometimes we need to give them their space, back off, and inshallah they'll come and accept the truth eventually. So that's number one. Number two, the second thing that I want to mention in terms of the haqq that is common to all believers is to be people who avoid doing minnah and tafakhur, meaning that we shouldn't be those who place favors on others, or that we boast about what we have. This is one of those other things that sometimes comes up in social life, where when somebody does something for somebody, right, they do it with a certain intention that at one point they're going to go and use it against them. Sometimes we hear, for example, people who get wary when a family member starts to give them gifts, right? They say that, look, when they give me gifts, then I start to worry that, okay, are they trying to get something on me here? They want to build up something, a case, so that they can get something from me. Or when somebody feels that a family member is starting to what's called love bomb, where they're just showing a lot of love to them, they're worrying. They're like, okay, well, why are they showing me this? Are they going to again go and try to do something? And one time they're going to come and try to use that against me. This is a sign of that this person in the past has shown this behavior. They've tried to make a favor. Now, one of the hadiths that we have is very scary hadith. This is again from Rasulullah. He says that ثَلَاثَةٌ لَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهِ. There are three that Allah will not speak with on the Day of Judgment. The first one of them is Al-Mannan, الَّذِي لَا يُعْطِي شَيْئًا إِلَّا بِمِنَّةٍ. The one who is frequently does this. Whenever they give something, they're doing it with an ulterior motive. They want something from it. It's a deliberately placed favor. Right now, they're acting like this, that they're doing this, and one time they're going to go and use that against the person. Now, this can come up in different ways. Sometimes it comes up in the form of where somebody says that because I've done this for you, therefore you must do this for me. Right? So they're creating a new haqq for themselves against that person. So we can't do that. We're not allowed to create huquq for ourselves. Huquq are defined by Allah. Right? Sometimes it's a way of belittling that person. It's saying that, oh, I've done this for you, I've done that for you, I've done this for you, right? And how dare you, think that you're something, right? Everything you have is because of me. Sometimes we hear this type of language, right? This is very wrong and can create a lot of disturbance in the home. So we talked about two of those huquq. The first one being the willingness to accept the truth. The second one being avoiding minna. And inshallah, we have one third one, and then we're going to inshallah conclude the discussion. If you can help me with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The third one is this, the importance of fulfilling promises. One of the, again, responsibilities that we have, one of the haqq, the huquq that mu'mineen have on one another is that if somebody makes a promise, they have to fulfill it. Okay? This is very clear. It's part of being an honest person. It's a part of creating a home in which there's trust. And yesterday we talked about this, that when the one place we want to be able to feel that we're trusted is in the home. The one gathering we want to feel that we're trusted is among believers. Right? So it's very important to be people who fulfill their promises. Again, I'll give you, there's many narrations about this, but one of them is the following from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Thalathun man kunna fihi kana munafiqa." There are three things that if somebody possesses these qualities, they're munafiq. They're a hypocrite. Number one, وَإِن صَامَ وَصَلَّى وَزَعْمَ أَنَّهُمْ مُسْلِمٌ. Even if that person fasts and they pray and they claim they're a Muslim, they're still going to be a munafiq in the eyes of Rasulullah. Number one, إِذَا أَتُمِنَ خَانَ. When somebody gives them an amana, a trust, they are treacherous. Number two, وَإِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذِبَ. That when they speak, they lie. And number three, وَإِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفَ. When they make a promise, they break that promise. So keeping a promise is very important. Okay, and I want to say this for everyone, but especially when it comes to close family members. It's so important to be able to have that trust. When parents sometimes, want to, make their children, for example, kind of calm them down, sometimes they make false promises. Right? This is very wrong, because that child is going to remember that, and they will grow up and think that even the person who's supposed to be my trusted caregiver, I can't rely upon them. When spouses speak with one another and one of them makes a promise and they don't fulfill that promise, what happens is that other person starts to think that maybe I'm not so important in this person's eyes. If I were important, then at the very least they would fulfill their promises to me. And when those type of shaitanic thoughts start to enter into one's mind, it can cause the foundation of that relationship to shake. So it's very important that when we make promises, now sometimes people say that, well, if, on a fiqhi level, isn't it the case that if we make a promise and we say, for example, insha'Allah, then, maybe it's not wajib on us to fulfill it, because we're not saying that we're going to do it. We're saying that, if Allah wills, then we're going to do it. And in general, isn't it good for us to say insha'Allah when we make a promise? So the answer is that yes, number one, it is good to say insha'Allah when we're talking about the future. And number two, yes, technically, if we say that and we don't actually do it, we haven't committed a sin, because we didn't make that promise unconditionally. We said that inshallah, it was a conditional promise. But imagine what happens if every time somebody hears us say inshallah, they know that, okay, well, that means that's another code word for I'm not going to do it. Right? It means that we're belittling the name of Allah. Right? Better not to do that. Why do we say that? Why do we take the name of Allah and put it in such a low place that, in other words, it means that I'm lying? Right? So we should avoid that type of thing. Again, this is one of those things that might seem small, but it can be very damaging to the household. Now, finally, brothers and sisters, when we're talking about change, okay, the last point I want to make is hopefully it's an important point, and it's a perspective that maybe we don't hear about that much. When we're talking about change, it's important to realize that if we want change in others, we have to be willing to look for change in ourselves. If you look at that example of Bakr, who is writing to Imam Jawad alayhi salam about his relative who has that father, and Imam Jawad is giving him that advice, if you want to break it down into a very simple strategy, he's not telling him that go and tell your father A, B, C, and then magically your father is going to change and everything's going to be good for you. What he's telling Bakr's relative is that look at, you have a responsibility to allow yourself to grow in your capacity. It's not going to be easy. This path is a path of struggle. But if you're able to allow yourself to grow in the process, then you will change and your father will change as well. In the Quran, when we look at the examples of people who struggled, let's say the magicians of Fir'aun. Fir'aun is making all these threats. لَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ. I'm going to cut off your hands. I'm going to put you up on and crucify you and nail you to this and torture you. What do they say? They say, رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. They say that, oh Allah, right? They don't say, take us away from this and we're running away from this, we can't bear this. They say, oh Allah, give us the capacity to be able to bear this right here. Allow us to change, allow us to grow. Pour down your sabr. Similarly, when the army of Dawood and Talut, when they are facing Jalut, right? And there are a small number of people and there's this giant and his army, very strong, Jabbarin, right? What do they say? They don't say that, oh Allah, just remove this from us or magically take it. They say that, Rabbana afrigh alayna sabra wa thabbit aqdamana wansurna ala al-qawm al-kafirin. Oh Allah, let us grow in our capacity. So when we're talking about this process, now it can happen in family, it can happen with friends, it can happen in a society, that when we go through these challenges, we're looking for changes on the outside, but we also have to be willing to want to change from the inside. So this is one of the powerful lessons, inshallah, that we can learn about how to attain Saʿādah. Finally, brothers and sisters, these are the nights where we're remembering very difficult tragedies from the events of Karbala. And tonight I want to mention just a small point, inshallah, as a introduction to the Masaib from our dear brother regarding Hadrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. The narrations say that along the way to Karbala, at one point, Imam Hussein alayhi salam sees a dream or a vision in which he sees that there's a caller who is calling out and saying that you are hurrying along, but it is death that is coming to you and you are going towards Jannah. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he is startled when he sees this vision, and nearby him is his son Ali Akbar alayhi salam. And Ali Akbar asks him, oh my father, what is it? What's the matter? And his father explains to him what he had seen. And Ali Akbar alayhi salam says, Alasna ala al-haq? Isn't that the case that we are on the path of truth? And Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, yes, indeed. By Allah, we are on the path of truth. And then Ali Akbar alayhi salam says, إِذَنْ لَا نُبَالِي بِالْمَوْتِ. If that's the case, that we're okay, right? Death is not something that's going to be something that we are concerned about. Because if this is the path of haqq, it's a path of Saʿādah, then something that we're willing to accept. And at that time, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says this one statement, and sometimes we don't have a chance to pause and reflect on that statement. He says, may Allah give you the best reward that a son can be given on account of his father. Maybe Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying here that everything that I would have wanted for my son to be able to achieve, that level of awareness, that level of growth, that level of tasneem to Allah, that level of understanding, I see that my son has attained it. When we see on the day of Ashura that Ali Akbar alayhi salam is telling his father, Ya abati, oh my father, hada jaddi, this is my grandfather, and this is Rasulullah, and he is saying to you, hurry up and come to us. This is my grandfather Rasulullah. This is your father Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. They are saying, hurry up and come to us. This is difficult for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to see. It's a very difficult tragedy. But perhaps amidst all of that, Imam Hussein alayhi salam is very proud that this son of his had attained this level of status, that he is being greeted by Rasulullah and Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam as he's leaving this world and entering the next. May Allah Ta'ala help us to be His true servants, to observe all the rights that He has upon us and that His servants have upon us. May Allah Ta'ala grant us the opportunity to be in a state of change for the good, to be reforming ourselves and to get closer to Him. May Allah count us among the true azadaran of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and may our actions be a source of pleasure to the Imam of our time. May Allah hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and help all those who are oppressed and give them sabr and istiqamah and victory over their oppressors with the barakah of as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.